And I think that cannabis has become weaponized by certain powers that be to dampen our younger men, especially.
Yeah.
Because it is a substance that addictive entities can come in through and hook you. You don't want to go over that threshold into addiction, because then forget it. It's really not a plant ally anymore. It's something that you need to stay away from.
Yeah. You can get really buried in the depths of it.
Oh no, this is the actual reality of Mother Mary. We know what it is. We govern this. We don't even question that they're governing it. But as I was doing this research, I'm realizing they're governing it. They're actually controlling this. What the heck?
I am the Lord. I am the Virgin and the whole.
And we are the Magdalene Rising Collective. Welcome to Something About Mary's, where we are flipping the script on history, or should we say, her story.
That's right, Carrie. We're here to uncover the stories they didn't want you to know. You know, the ones buried under centuries of patriarchal doctrine, hidden gospels, and a whole lot of repressed femininity.
And we're not just talking about Mary Magdalene either. We're digging into the sacred, the scandalous, and the downright badass Marys who have been overshadowed, rewritten, and forgotten entirely. So grab your chalice
or your coffee mug and join us as we reimagine the sacred feminine, one cheeky, irreverent conversation at a time.
Because here is the thing. This isn't your grandma's Bible study. This is a journey into truth, empowerment, and maybe a little heresy.
Welcome to Something About Mary's, uncovering her story they didn't want you to know.
And my name has been covered up with shame since ages. I've been locked up in these chains.
We are back here at the Magdalene Rising Summit podcast presentation of There Are Some Things About Mary. We are so excited to be here with Marguerite Rigoglioso. She is an incredible scholar and just wellspring of knowledge regarding Mary and divine feminine birth. And we wanted to dive right into this concept that you brought up earlier about when you are an oracle for them or when you open yourself to them. And I have been in a program with you where you are leaning on Lady Cannabis to help open this channel. Will you discuss that with us?
Yes, I think it's very important, Mary, because the sacred medicines, to my understanding, through my research, and this is also verified by numbers of other researchers, William Henry, Brian Murarescu, Amun Hillman, many others, Chris Bennett, who over the years have been talking about the fact that the ancient mysteries are based in the use of sacred medicines that would open the consciousness, and that they were pretty strong potions that were created with wine, with honey, with alcohol, with different herbs that are very, very strong, and that women were the ones who mainly prepared these in all the ancient mystery rites, like the Eleusinian mysteries and so forth. So this was a women's thing, this domain. Today, you go to maps or whatever, and it's, mostly men are leading the charge, but this is the realm of horticulture. This is women's work, right? They were the ones who knew what plant did what and how and in what proportion. So Lady Cannabis has been one of those things that over the millennia has been used. I mean, we find evidence of it, for example, in Herodotus, the 6th century BC, talking about the use of it by the Scythians, and there, many other places that we see it probably in the Hebrew tradition and others all over the place. So cannabis has been with us for quite some time. yes, it has been quite hybrided. It has been altered for better or worse. I don't know. It's quite strong now. But I was introduced to it back in my when I started. I kind of, I was with a group of women and they were doing edibles. And I had a couple of instances where I did these edibles and then was like completely overwhelmed and trying to ride home. But eventually I started getting into inhaling the smoke because I had worked with mushrooms on a few occasions, psilocybin mushrooms. Way too strong for me, would take me right into the underworld. It really didn't feel like my plant ally. It certainly taught me a heck of a lot, initiated me into the underworld. But then I was there with cannabis and it was much more manageable for me. And I realized it was putting me in the oracle state. I was channeling. I didn't really realize this at first, but all I knew was that all this information was coming through and I had to get my little recorder and I would record. I've recorded like almost every single ceremony that I've done for the past, 25 years. And so I realized, wow, cannabis is my ally for opening my oracle channel more and more and more. And then in 2017, my friend and colleague Angela de la Agua introduced me to cacao. And I had my first experience with cacao and I realized, oh, that's not only a consciousness opener, it's a heart opener and it does many other things. So I work in tandem with both of these, one or the other. When I'm wanting super, super high octane, I'll go to the cannabis and I'll do it publicly. And, I had my Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy where I helped people initiate into cacao, blue lotus, which is another a mind expander, and cannabis. So yes, periodically, every 4 to 8 weeks, I will go in ceremony. I've never used it recreationally. I have an internal agreement not to do so because I don't want to dampen its ability to work with me and help me as an oracle. Because these things, the more you use, the more frequently you use them, the more you have to take in order to get the same effect. And, and I never wanted that. So I keep it clear and clean. So periodically, like on my YouTube channel, my Marguerite Rigoglioso YouTube channel, I have a show called Bridging Dimensions. And sometimes the last Friday of every other month, I'll do something live on a theme, right? So I have sat some of those themes and they are on that Bridging Dimension show on my Marguerite Rigoglioso YouTube channel where I have themes about the Marys, their ascension teachings, information about Mary Magdalene. There have been a few of them that I've done. I'm going to do another one about the unicorn and the Marys, okay, coming up. So that's that's a little summary of how and of course the cannabis is known as Santa Maria because for indigenous Latin Americans, they would have an experience that would connect them with a being that they would identify as Mother Mary or Santa Maria. So, it all gets connected, right?
Yeah. I found when I was saying how as a little girl, I grew up in Humboldt County. So I grew up on the Lost Coast of California, very much around cannabis as a lifestyle because I quite literally lived on the Lost Coast of California. So one room schoolhouse, you had to be boarded to go to high school. And we were taught how to grow cannabis as children because that was what our path was for us there, really. And so I spent a lot of time with cannabis as a little girl, not as a using it, but just as like seeing it dry, like being in that culture of people growing cannabis. So I found that really interesting as a path towards divinity, because it's also another part that's been very much shamed.
That's right. That's right. And it's also been hijacked, misused, adulterated. It's now used to hijack our young men primarily and turn them into stoners. And they're anything but connecting with the divine with the way that they're using it. They're kind of getting lethargic and disconnected. So, anything can be used as a weapon. And I think that cannabis has become weaponized by certain powers that be to dampen our younger men, especially.
Yeah.
Them, because it is a substance that addictive entities can come in through and hook you. You don't want to go over that threshold into addiction, because then forget it. It's really not a planned ally anymore. It's something that you need to stay away from.
Yeah, you can get really buried in the depths of it.
Yeah.
What you just said about weaponizing, I mean, that really, I feel after what I've learned in the past year about Mary, all these things that I just had no idea how weaponized women were.
That's right. How weaponized Mother Mary's image has been. Because look at the image.
Yeah.
Which is somebody who's kind of quiet. I mean, it's a little bit, I like to use this image because it's beautiful, and a student and colleague gave it to me. But she's docile, her demure, she's passive, her eyes are cast down. She does it according to the will of others. She's not very present, and she's a perfect eternal virgin, meaning that she has no sexual feeling or activity going on. She's cloaked, all of this type of thing. This is the weaponized image of Mother Mary that has kept women down, has distorted our sexuality, and has really created problems on the planet. And that has been promulgated by a church that shall remain unnamed that says, oh no, this is the actual reality of Mother Mary. We know what it is. We govern this. We don't even question that they're governing it. But as I was doing this research, I'm realizing they're governing it. They're actually controlling this. What the heck? That's not who she is, And even if you go back, like you were saying, the very early art about her, and this woman, Ali Cattouse, has done a very, very beautiful academic job looking at the very early centuries art. She's got her hands raised. She's looking up. She's carrying the censer, the incense, sacred medicine. She's doing, hands-on healing, all this type of thing, which is what we find in her biographies. So she's been cloaked, and we're uncloaking her now.
She's about to be like remember in the 70s when everybody was streaking? Like we get to unveil ourselves and like let the full embodiment of the feminine and of the truth of the feminine be seen, not through an evil hermeneutics, not through the lens that our sexuality is dirty, that our mothering is in service to everyone but ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm so happy that I get to be on this planet during this revolution.
So am I. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I think it's the shifting into the age of Aquarius. There's a timing involved here where all these things over the last 40 years, it's been Mary Magdalene. Now it's Mother Mary, finally, right? Really, this is the beginning. The last few years, as I've been talking about this, it's been Mother Mary.
I think it's interesting that, all of the artwork depicts her in this, this look up, she can't look up. She's in sorrow. I think that's why I never really resonated with her at all, because I am a rebel, like Harry. I'm a rebel. So Mary Magdalene was more my speed, because I was like, oh yeah, I get it. She was a little wild, and she settled down with Jesus.
She's slutty. I'm in. I know.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was having fun. Okay.
That's right. And, and so now we're having more nuanced understandings of Mary Magdalene as well, like what was the role of sexuality in her life, in her ministry. And there are many layers to that. It's quite fascinating. And also what I talk about in this book, what was her role and her relationship with Mother Mary?
Yeah.
Because Mother Mary would have been her mother-in-law.
And even that idea that women were mentoring women, that women were looking up to women, having that kind of relation where we would hold our hands out and lift each other up, getting to witness that back then, and how much that idea has been removed from our knowing.
That's right. Even though it's in her early biographies, going back to 600, Life of the Virgin, attributed to Maximus, the, Life of the Blessed Mother, whatever it is. I mean, there are various titles of it and other different manuscripts. pieces, and the early church fathers said stuff about her that somehow went missing. But these are really important details, and that's why I've accumulated them all and put them in this book, because we need to see the whole picture laid out. A very interesting puzzle starts getting put together that has to do with our own lives.
You just said somehow went missing, right? Do you believe that somehow?
No, because it went deliberately missing in the councils of Nicaea and other councils, where they were deciding what was meant to go in the Bible and what wasn't. So things, all the Nag Hammadi texts, forget it. Birth of Mary / Infancy Gospel of James, forget it.
So, because quite literally, a group of men decided
dressed like
out the women's story.
Yeah, they decided they're, and I mean, Lisa Renee, who's one of our very serious oracles at this time, basically says that was really those were demonic meetings where they were reversing everything.
Mm-hmm.
They were also trying to control the masses too, because if
That's
people
right.
start to believe that they have this power within themselves, then they don't need the church and they don't need.
That's right. No. They were really corralling it. Even though those were happening, there was still an indigenous tradition that went into Europe, whereby these clerics and things were still writing about her. The people were still had an attitude toward her in a certain way that was much more open. And that's where, Ali Cattus's book is really, really helpful with that detail of how Mary was held for many centuries, really, until, finally it's just over time, it went more and more hidden. And so things like the unicorn tapestries and the unicorn illuminated manuscripts with Mother Mary, they were the last vestige of shining out those kinds of mysteries to the public. It did go into the cathedrals, though. There is still a tradition, so that would be in like the Middle Ages, medieval times, from 1400. There was still a tradition going on in Europe of honoring this Blessed Mother, right? There's been a whole processions to her in Europe, in numerous countries, now also all around the world, in Latin America. There's this whole alternative religion to Mother Mary that is still within the Christian tradition. It's so interesting. But that's what would attract me when I would go to Europe and Sicily and Italy, places of my heritage, and I would see these processions to the Madonna. I would be weeping. They'd have these huge statues. These men would be carrying her on a palanquin, and, at Easter. I mean, it was so primordial, and it really harkened back to Demeter and Persephone and, earlier versions of the sacred feminine, right? And so there has always been a parallel religion, either underneath or floating on top of the official doctrine, that you can access. But still somehow it's been kept like sequestered. And when you think about Mother Mary, like as a modern day person in the modernity, you don't really think of her. So you have to poke around to find these other layers of who she is.
That's why I really enjoyed the question of who is Mary to you, because I think that Mary is different to so many people. I think it's so interesting that in society, we can believe that this woman had that this woman birthed Jesus, through whatever, an angel or God coming down. And we can believe that, but we can't believe that she did it herself.
That's right.
That's sound, preposterous. So how do we?
That's right. And that's where, as you know, my work has come in. The previous book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, looked exactly at that question of how she could have been willed. She could have willed and planned and executed that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, of course, La Virgen de Guadalupe in Latin America. She emerged, for those people out of Tonantzin, the goddess who was there. She came in another image that the people could tolerate, understand, embrace, and bring them comfort as they were being colonized by the church that shall remain unnamed. So that's a whole other level in which she operates. And there are many different types of Marys with Mary names all over the place. All over. So people love her.
Yeah, even when we were doing the summit, people would ask us like, oh, what about Hawaiian culture's version of Mary? What about Indigenous Americans' culture of Mary? And we were kind of like, wait, what are you talking about? Like what? Because we were coming from a very place of not knowing, like we were just so curious. We wanted all the stories. We wanted all of the teachings, and how many different versions have been snuffed or kept quiet or put under wraps or buried beneath the church that shall remain unnamed.
Yeah, because
Voldemort, the Church of Voldemort.
Right. Reality has not been televised. You know what I mean? That's what I'm kind of getting at. Like it exists she's rainbow. Okay. She's every color of the rainbow. And then in China or Asia, you have Kuan Yin, and she's that. Right. So it's this, the thing is, and this is what I keep getting from these Marys. They're like, it's not really about our specific personalities, although we have them.
Right.
We are part of, like you do. We are part of a larger stream that you are calling Mary and that you're calling Magdalene. And it is a light stream of Sophianic, energy, love, light, wisdom that is within you all. That's all. That's what we're trying to help you awaken to. It's not about getting our history right necessarily, or worshiping us or putting us above you. It's about realizing that we're within you.
Yeah. I have felt that so strongly, that the whole idea of the Marys, it's not about lifting them to the same place as Jesus or Christ, Yeshua. It's not about that. It's about realizing them within ourselves. And if we could start to turn divinity inward towards ourselves as women and see, truly, like cellularly believe that we are as divine as God, the masculine story that we have been taught ages through ages, that the world will shift that way, just in believing our divinity within ourselves, believing that we have a role at the top, not needing the actual story, but just the belief
That's right.
we belong there. We have to.
You have done an incredible job of putting all of that to, like, I can't even imagine the amount of research you have done, and you have gotten it all in this unbelievable book, which I highly recommend audiobook and reading it, because I have to do both all the time. I need to digest it both ways.
Welcome to the portion of the podcast where post-production, Sandy and I reflect on the conversations that we had, and we spill the chalice. Let's go. Sandy, what did you think about the second half of the Marguerite interview? I think we should start with Lady Cannabis.
Agreed. I mean, it was awesome. The whole part of the episode is so juicy. Like, we really saved the best for this part. Marguerite's so awesome. I love her Lady Cannabis that kind of comes through on her. And she's got a little, I think it's like a New York accent, but it's really funny, her Lady Cannabis. And she said some really wild stuff when she's channeling Lady Cannabis. I've heard her before.
Yeah. I grew, like I said in the podcast, that I grew up around cannabis as a girl, and then I definitely lived then as a teenager in the area that Reagan was, and it was very sort of say no to drugs, and not that we didn't smoke any marijuana in high school or anything like that, but I felt a lot of shame around it. And even when it became legal in my state, it's legal in your state, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's still some states where it's illegal. I don't know about in other countries at all.
Yeah.
But I still hold a lot of shame around it, even though I gave up drinking, which drinking I never held any shame on.
Right.
But I do like it. I mean, I use marijuana in two different ways. I guess how she said recreationally, like turning into a stoner. Yeah, okay, that way. And
I would never guess that about you.
and the idea of using it in ceremony, which I mean, I try to keep my whole life as a ceremony. And so even I always acknowledge the plants. I always acknowledge, like that's an important part of just like of it to me, understanding that this was a living entity and like living entities break down and turn into something else. And we turn that living entity into smoke and then take it in and like allow it to really swirl through our bodies. It's really quite magical when you think about plant medicine that way.
I think like my feeling on plant medicine is that it's terrible that we actually feel bad or guilty or judgment against it, because I believe that it should be available to everybody. It does magical things. It helps people with pain and it cures other diseases. And I know for certain that for me, I use it when I know that I want to really go deep and I want to like listen to, get in touch with like my soul voice, and it never fails me. I always come out with like some incredibly channeled messages that sound like there's no way they came from me. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I haven't pinpointed it yet, and I don't know if I really need to. But I do believe in the power of plant medicine. And I think it's important for us to kind of overcome that fear of
Because there's like a stigma. Why should we have a stigma around anyone's medicine in some ways?
Yeah.
If it's not hurting anyone else. And yeah. And
It's
I had cacao before we started working today, open my heart and feel like I love the way, I feel a little bit mellow, and I'm looking forward to the monthly cacao ceremonies.
Me too. Cacao is like very similar. Like definitely helps you get to a level of consciousness that you can't normally get to. It just kind of like opens up the channels much easier for you. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I always say like if you're trying to get to that place of consciousness, plant medicine will definitely help aid
It'll
you
help
get
you
there.
get there. What do you want to discuss next?
Well, I want to discuss Sluts or Us.
You said it. You hopefully Toys R Us doesn't come after you for that one. Or maybe the two are a partnership made in heaven.
Right? Toys and sluts.
Let's go. Yeah. Because you always what is the word I'm searching for? Like you communed with that concept that like you weren't a good girl.
Yeah, I connected very early with the idea of that Mary Magdalene was a slut or a whore or whatever, whatever term you want to use at the time. And I always felt that it kind of bothered me that she was labeled as anything, either positive or negative. Like, who's labeling you, whether you're having sex or you're not having sex, or that's just nobody's business. And it irked me that somebody was like calling her out for that. But there was also like this part of like, well, she was repentant. So can you be like a whore and then all of a sudden you're a holy woman?
Yeah. How long do we have to carry our history in shame?
Yeah.
Like, how long do I have to feel shame for the fact that I was raised by a divorced mother? How long do I have to feel shame that I had a baby out of wedlock? When is that shame allowed to dissipate? Or is there constantly a shame around any behaviors that we had, even that we might not be proud of, but that we learned from, gained from, grew from?
Yeah. I mean, that's just like a whole big conversation, but it's, judgment on your sexuality. It's the same. It's like so in the same vein as judgment on whether you're using cannabis. It's the same as judgment on your body types. Like these things are nobody's business. Nobody should be judging anybody. Everybody's living their life to what's right for them.
Yeah. I think that exactly what you're saying is why I have enjoyed my new relationship with Mary Magdalene. In that learning about her gospel, I felt really released from shame.
Yeah.
I felt very released from shame, and it wasn't something that I had expected, and that it almost happened instantly. It almost was like it just like shook off of me. Like it was something that I just like I shed it. I shed that skin. I grew a little bigger, and that skin no longer fit that feeling of shame.
Yeah, because I mean, this goes back to when I was little. Remember, like I had like some very profound thoughts, but nobody to talk to when I was younger. So I kind of sat on this one. But I would say, like, when my parents would say I was bad, I was like, well, what does that mean, bad? You know, how am I bad? Like, God made me. Isn't God, everything God does is
Good.
perfect?
Right.
Like, how can I be bad? God already knows what I'm going to do. God knows that if you give me a box of Crayola 64 count crayons, that I am going to break them all off
Or
in the...
and then find it later when you get colonics at age 42.
So it's like, how can you be bad? You know, God made you. There is no,
But
there
that's
is
like
no
church
sin.
thing too. Like if there, I mean, I do believe that there are some darker forces in this world. I do believe that there are people who found magic and use it for their own personal. And honestly, as a woman who has always identified as a witch, I have never trusted anybody with a reddish hue to their hair. I never have. I think that you are a newer, like rawer witch, and that you are selfish with your magic versus for the greater good. And I have
Really?
always thought that. Yeah. Which is really funny because my grandmother, who left me a bag of her hair, by the way, was a redhead. And my daughter also was a little bit like when my daughter was born, we would sing a little red top. You got me spinning. Because
Oh
she
my
had
God.
strawberry hair, and I used to dress her up in little outfits that were strawberries. So, well, we
Wow.
better get to work, Sandy. We've been gabbing too long. Time to get back to putting together a podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Let's hear
All right.
what else she's got to tell us.
Let's hear it.
But we're running out of time, and we wanted to end with another question that we're going to do like in a circle. So, let's see. We wanted to ask, is there a bigger, this is in your epilogue on deepening the connection. Is there a bigger ministry within you awaiting manifestation? So we'll do circle style and do
2 minutes again.
yeah.
We'll keep you over a few minutes. Is that okay, Marguerite?
Fine.
Okay. So, who shall go first?
I think you should go first this time, Kim.
Great. I love going first. The bigger, this is one of those things that feels unspeakable. And I think that that's a part of what we've been taught, a part of the teaching that as a girl who was raised very feral, I felt such a connection to God through plants, through the animals, through the moon, through the cycles, through the knowing of like even being able to read plants and what the leaves meant and the shape of their stems and how like I just felt so much lessons of God through watching plants grow. And you even said like through horticulture. I have a horticulture background. I managed a nursery for years. I have a lot of houseplants. So I always thought, well, my ministry is through plants. My ministry is through the understanding of like letting things fall away and rerouting yourself through other means, and that our roots don't have to come from the bottom, and we can connect ourselves epiphytically, and we can bring in what we need through other means than the means that we've been taught. So I do feel like there's always been a bigger ministry for me there, even from being a little girl. Like my name is Carrie Malone was my birth name. And I always felt like I was supposed to carry him alone. I was supposed to be a virgin. I had a baby on my own, and I would always be like, I'm the Virgin Mary, except for I had sex. Like I would say that. I was like, I'm supposed to carry this child alone. I'm supposed to be sovereign and alone. And I've always felt like I was supposed to be at the helm of some sort of ministry, which made no sense since I had no religion in my life. So I do think that finding Mary and finding this pathway towards divinity through these stories, through books like yours and Margaret Starbird's and Adele Veneri, books about these vibrations of these high vibrating women in their truth, in their power, that there is a ministry for all women in that energy. So yes, I'm complete. Thank you. Who goes next?
I'll go next so we can listen to Marguerite last.
Okay.
For me, I think there definitely is. I'm on this path, and Lord, I am awakening to new things every single day. But my connection with Mary Magdalene was the beginning. I always felt a connection with her, with my like, kind of rebel, and I married like a very Catholic person who's I was like always had the question of the whore or the holy woman. Who are you? You're a little bit of the whore, but you're trying to be the holy woman. And it wasn't until I kind of came into my own, like now in my 50s, that I'm like, I'm both. I am both. And I think that vision that I had of Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary together is also a reflection of that. They are, it's at least to me, they are one in the same and that sort of thing. I've always been empowering women, and on the path of empowering women, I did it through photography and art and things like that my whole entire life. So I feel like I just keep us going higher and higher and finding new and exciting things. I mean, it's very exciting to me. I'm like, every time I learn something, I'm like, yes, oh, this is what I've been waiting for my whole entire life. I need to spread this to the entire world. And it is a little difficult because the entire world is not ready to hear all of this. So I have to kind of keep that to myself because it's really they have to come into these things in their own time, in their own life, and it may not be this life. So I have to kind of control myself a little bit. But yeah, there's a book in me, and there's a lot of things that I have that are coming my way. So yes.
I say go for it.
Thank you.
No holding back.
So how about you?
Yeah. Is there a larger ministry for me regarding Mother Mary? Yes. And it's continually evolving. I don't know. You know that I have the Mary and Magdalene priestess training. And so that has begun this September. It's profound. It's profound for me, for what I'm absorbing and researching to be able to transmit to everybody. I just took everybody through a baptism, a Eucharist, and a redemption ritual. Wow. That was really something. And that took ovaries, after all these centuries to have the women reclaim the baptismal process, right? And what does it really mean? So yeah, I mean, this is ongoing. I'm going to be continuing to unfold new information and experiences through that training and beyond. I mean, who knows where all this will lead me, but I feel very, very dedicated to it now. I mean, yesterday in the ritual, I received, "Oh, you are out of the wilderness now, my dear," because all those initiates had to go through the wilderness, which was a really hard time. And I've shown that I'm out of the wilderness now, and that I can operate from a different place with this all. It's not so much loneliness or fighting or feeling like I'm not supported. It's more these supports are starting to accrue. And so, wow, what's going to come as a result of that? Lots of big things. And William Henry, who's another very fine author and researcher, I mentioned him earlier, he's tuned into my work, and he and I have started connecting and collaborating on different things. And that we both bring each other to a whole new level in terms of our work and the vibration of it. So the sky is not even the limit.
I love the reward music.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing all the great things you do. And do you want to just tell us how we can get your book and where we can find you online?
Yes, you can get the book wherever books are sold. Go to your local bookstore, ask them to order it for you, or you could go online. Barnes & Noble, the Inner Traditions website itself, that's my publisher. I'm with the Bear & Company imprint with them. Amazon, of course, it's in print, it's in Kindle, it's in audio, as you've been mentioning. And then to find out more about the types of things I'm doing, and, go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com. The 7 is written out SEVEN. That's the school that I've created and been running since 2012. And it is the platform for all of these evolving things. There also in the book, there are free meditations at the end of each chapter. And at the end, I tell you how you can sign up for those so you can experience those And I have a monthly Mary and Magdalene Empowerment Circle for a low subscription, fee. If you would like to have the living experience of the Marys as transmitted through me every month. So that's an option as well.
Yes, it is accessible to all, all levels. I do want to say that I did do one of your meditations yesterday, and it was wonderful. It definitely gave me some answers that I was looking for.
Blessed be. Well, those are all taken from previous monthly Mary and Magdalene Empowerment Circle meditations that were channeled by me. So there's more on that to come.
Well, I for one just love to see the Mary waking up in all of us, the priestess that is within us that has been hidden or suppressed, and how in every woman on every level we're cracking open a little bit. There's so many souls on this planet right now here to take in this beautiful feminine energy. Thank you for being a leader for all of us in this.
Welcome. You're so welcome. I mean, yeah, it's not really about the Marys or me. It's about all of us, right?
It's about us, right? It's about us as individuals.
How we are moving forward with our healing and with our awakening.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see what the future holds. I know that it's going to be feminine.
Love that.
Much. Thank you so, so much for this. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Andy and Carrie and all of your beautiful community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Something About Mary's podcast, an offering of the Magdalene Rising Collective. If anything you listened to today intrigued you, be sure to like, share, and follow. And thank you so much to our guest, Marguerite Rigoglioso. She is the founder of Seven Sister Mystery School and a trusted mentor and a well-known award-winning author of the books The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening, as well as the Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births. We are so happy to have these conversations and to share them with you. Thank you so much for listening.
I am the petals and the thorns. On behalf of the Holy Ghost, I am the key that opens the door. And my name has been covered up with shame since